Hello and welcome to A Few Minutes With. Today we're talking to Cheryl Heisterberg, President of DAC Art Consulting in Atlanta. Hi Cheryl, welcome to A Few Minutes With. Can you tell us a little bit about how you choose the pieces to put into a restaurant when it comes to art?
Absolutely. We really start with talking to ownership and the brand and start thinking through the location, what types of guests will be coming to the restaurant. We look at the design, we look at the concepts, we take in any local feel or vibe that we're trying to incorporate into the art.
And how do you choose where in the restaurant to put that art?
I mean, there's usually kind of an obvious key feature. Restaurants often have a lot going on. So sometimes there might be just one, great wall or a hallway, leading towards a private dining or a private dining. Oftentimes we're doing some murals or ceiling sculptures, depending on, kind of the impact that we want to make.
What is a ceiling sculpture?
Oh, there's so many different ways you can do a ceiling sculpture. So it would be basically just suspending some type of dimensional object or a piece of art through, from the ceiling. I mean, we can do it with biophilia, with different art elements, getting really creative, to make a real impact. It's almost as if you kind of feel like, you're showered under something or you're sitting under something, which really can create a really beautiful ambiance in a space. And oftentimes the guests might not even look up and see it, but they can kind of feel that that there's something around them that's organic or beautiful.
Do you like to have a variety? You mentioned the ceiling art, maybe sculpture, paintings, photographs. Do you like to have variety in the artwork you feature?
Absolutely. We like it to look kind of like a collection and mix the mediums. So when we start a project, we really start to think through the different mediums, the different art opportunities, and how we can lay that out through the space. So it's either kind of drawing you as a visitor or your eye. And the different mediums really help, I think that. And they can be conversation pieces too. Like if it's a mixed medium, with different layers into it, it might draw the guest in and kind of explore, well, what is that? And it could be something local or something organic or something that speaks to that brand. So yeah, we really do like to mix up the mediums in a space.
And in terms of the artwork, should it all work together or should it each piece stand on its own, or is it a mixture of that?
I think it's a mixture, but even if it's not going to flow and work together, it still has to have a feeling of intention. Like, it's not random. Like we've kind of thought through, we actually don't want this to have a theme, or we don't want it to, work perfectly together. We do want to maybe look like the owner was, traveling in California and picked up a piece and found something in New York, or, traveling out of the country and adding maybe some like cultural or, different influences in. So I think as long as it's intentional and it is a bit of a balance to kind of create that harmony, and it's a fine line between what looks maybe random and intentional, but we really work closely with design to make sure that it does have a cohesive feel, even if it's not all the pieces aren't alike.
Tell me a bit about color and texture in the artwork, whatever that artwork is. Do you like to do things that tie together or tie to different elements in the restaurant?
Color is super important. It's one of the key elements. And in certain spaces, we're really thinking, well, probably in all spaces, we're thinking a lot about color. And sometimes color can be neutral. It can be some kind of really dramatic installation that may cover an entire wall that has a neutral feel or like a tone on tone. So it's important. And, sometimes you want a great pop. Like if we're doing a really cool restaurant in Vegas and we want something, there's so much going on there that we might need something super colorful and super bold to catch the eye. Or if it's a very upscale, luxe restaurant, they might want just a softer blend of colors. So it definitely plays into how we think about placing art and choosing the art for sure. It's one of the key elements, I would say, placement and color.
And depending, I'm sure, on the restaurant, but do you like to have a standout piece, a wow piece, or more than one? Or sometimes do you bypass that altogether?
Sometimes, like I do think that most places will have a key piece, a standout piece, something that grabs your attention or your eye. But again, if it's a restaurant that maybe is very collected and very luxurious, they might want, the design and the art to kind of blend more together, almost looking like a living room or a museum or, something that just has a different feel. But typically we are focused on one or two standout pieces and knowing that those are the key locations, they'll get the most traffic, they'll have, the most like curb appeal.
Do you have to be careful not to do too many standouts to kind of exhaust people's eyes?
Absolutely. And honestly, most of the time, restaurants or public spaces don't have the budget for too many pieces. So we don't have that problem a lot. But if we do feel like it's getting too busy or too crowded, or it's maybe causing some confusion, we'll sit with design and ownership and talk through what that actually looked like, how we can pare it down, maybe swap out the art, swap out the color to create, a nice experience. Because we're always walking the space and thinking through the space, even though oftentimes it's on paper and it's on concepts and it's on floor plans. But what will the guest feel when they walk into that space? And if it feels like it's overwhelming, then it's probably not going to be a great guest experience. And our whole goal is to have art be something that helps draw the guest back into the space.